According to the American Dental Association of Alabama, 10 out of 10 dentists go to Dr. Math when finding the difference quotient. All right, Mathletes, so let's go in here and let's dive into this example of how to find the difference quotient. So before you begin, what I'm always going to tell you is make sure, when they ask you to find the difference quotient or whatever they're asking you for, make sure you understand the question. So if they're asking us to find the difference quotient, we need to know what is the difference quotient. So let's write that out first. All right, so here it is. What we're really going to find is f of x plus h minus f of x, right? And all that is going to be divided by h. And you're going to see that this quotient right here, right, is going to play out. It's going to play over and over and over as you go into calculus and so many other areas of math, all right? So pay attention to that. Maybe get a nice tattoo of that. So let's go ahead and let's use this difference quotient. So look what it says. It says find f of x plus h. And we're going to need all these other components, but listen, h right here, that's just a constant. So that's going to stay the same, all right? So that h is going to stay the same. F of x, that's what they're going to provide you with, right? That's what's given. F of x, that's what's given. And let's make that a lowercase f. All right, just so it matches. But again, the name of the function, that could be a g of x, that could be a h of x, that could be a q of x. So again, it doesn't matter. That's the function that they give us, okay? And so this is given. And so what I'm going to tell you, whatever function they give you, this part we're going to put in parentheses, and that's where people mess up. So let's dive in here and let's take a look. So first things first, let's find f of x plus h. All right, so let's only focus on that piece first. So we get negative 2, but notice our input is x plus h. So we get x plus h here, and then plus 5. So let's do a little razzle dazzle, and let's distribute that negative 2, right? So you get a negative 2, and you get a negative 2, and you get a negative 2. All right. And then we always ask ourselves, can we simplify this? All right, in this case, you can't simplify. So this, let me highlight this. This is going to represent f of x plus h. All right, so let me highlight that. So when we go ahead and substitute that into our formula, that's what we're going to put right there. All right, so that's the first and most important step right there. So now let's go ahead and let's use our difference quotient. All right, so f of x plus h, we now know what that is. So let's go ahead and let's plug this in. So we get negative 2x minus 2h plus h minus, and remember I said I'm going to put a parentheses, f of x. Well, what is f of x? Remember, that's what's given to us. That's right here, f of x. That's what's given to you. So let's go ahead and plug that in. Negative 2x plus 5. And we're going to divide all that by h. And again, what you're going to see in these problems is a lot of algebra. So make sure your algebra skills are sharp. And if not, then check out my playlist, my algebra playlist, because again, you want to make sure your algebra is sharp before you dive into these problems, or else this is going to give you a big headache. So let's go ahead and distribute that negative, and we are left with negative 2x minus 2h plus h. Distribute that negative, and you're left with plus 2x minus 5. And don't forget, all that is over h. All right, folks. So again, this part is key. Make sure that you distribute that negative. Okay, what's nice about this is we're gonna have cancellation, right? So that's how we know we're doing something right. So these negative 2x's and the 2x, they cancel. That positive 5 and negative 5, they cancel. And what are we left with? What are we left with? Negative 2h over h. And we could see that those h's cancel, and we're left with our difference quotient, which is -2. It's that easy. But again, make sure you're very careful with your signs, because that is where most folks mess up. All right, and to make sure that you really get the understanding of this and that you don't mess up, you got to smash that like button, subscribe, and follow me to example 2. All right, folks, so here for example 2, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to find the difference quotient. And again, I want you to write down the difference quotient every time until you have it right here, right? So let's go in here, and people are like, wait, this is g of x and this is f. Remember, this is just a placeholder. It's telling us what we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is find g of x plus h, whatever the function is that they give us. All right, so wherever I see x, I'm going to go ahead and put x plus h. All right, we're squaring that there. I see an x, so I'm going to put an x plus h, and I see the plus 7. And so now for this quadratic, right, because it's squared, we're going to see a little bit more work. It's not harder, it's just more work. Don't shy away from it, right? Just dive in. So we have two x plus h's, right, that are going to be multiplied. So let's go ahead and write this down. I have negative x plus h and another x plus h. And then this negative, why not distribute it? So we have minus x minus h plus 7. All right, I always tell folks, whatever that constant is, let's handle that last. And what's great about this is you're going to do so many of these problems that this, after you FOILed it or multiplied it out, right, you're already going to know what the result is. But for the sake of this video, let's go ahead and multiply it out. Let's distribute. So we're left with, let's go ahead and we have x squared, right? Then we have an xh, and then we're going to have another xh, and then we're going to have an h squared, right? After we distribute all that. And this piece, we're just going to bring it up along for the ride because nothing happened to that yet. So we're just bringing that along for the ride. All right, so that's what we have so far. And now it's your choice. You could go ahead and combine these two, right? Let me just write the answer right here. So when we combine these two, they combine to give us 2xh. And if you want to take that extra step and rewrite it, that's a good idea as well. So now I'm going to distribute this negative sign here, here, and here, right? So all we're doing is algebra, right? Nothing new here. So we end up with negative x squared minus 2xh minus, oh, I almost fell for the trap, minus h squared. And like I said, then we're going to bring all this down. So it's going down. It's going down, down, down. All right, and that's what we're left with. And that is g of x plus h. That's going to be this first piece right there. So let me go ahead and highlight it because some of you like to color code things, which is excellent. All right, so that piece right there, that is what's going to go right here. Bam. And this f of x, what this represents, right? It represents the original function that they give us. So let me highlight that. That's the original function that they give you, which in this case is this right here. This is the original function that we're working with. And this h always stays h. So now let's go ahead and substitute these pieces into our difference quotient. So let's go ahead and find that difference quotient. So here we go. Let me go ahead and use some magic here. Oh, I'm gonna copy and paste that there. Let me fix that 7, it got chopped off a little bit. All right, so there is, and let me fix that square. So there is our f of x plus h, which I found, right? Minus our original function. In this case, this was g of x plus h minus the original function, which was g of x, and that's what's given here. So let me use a little magic here. Work with me. And then let's get that here. Let me erase that equals. All right, so again, as long as you know, this is what's going here because that's our original function. And all that is over h. And what's gonna play out over and over again, right? Just like those favorite tunes that you like, is you're gonna see that once I distribute, this x squared is gonna cancel with this negative x squared, right? Because it's turning positive. This x is gonna cancel with this negative x, because when you distribute, it's gonna make it positive, and these signs are always gonna be the opposite. When I distribute this negative, right, you're gonna get -7, which is gonna cancel with this 7. And that's the beauty of this. We're gonna get this cancellation. So let's go ahead and go through here and cancel. So this negative x squared, boom, and that positive x squared, because we're gonna distribute, right? And then we get this positive x with this negative x, again, after you distribute. This -7, right, because we distributed, with this +7. So those cancel out. And what you're left with is, look upstairs in the numerator. We're left with the -2xh. You're left with the negative h squared, and you're left with the -h all over h. All right. And now what you always tend to do is say, okay, what do they have in common? Can I factor something out? Well, in this case, they all have an h in common. So let's get the h out of here, and you're left with -2x minus h minus 1. And you could always distribute that back in to make sure it gives you what you started with. And that is all over h. And we see, oh, nice, these h's cancel out. So there you have it. There's your difference quotient. So our difference quotient is, let's write that in black, -2x minus h minus 1. And there you have it, folks. We have no more like terms, nothing else we could simplify. So boom. Again, look at all the potential places where you can make one mistake. So you got to take your time. You got to fill up that piece of paper, write it nice and big, because there's so many places where you can make the biggest mistake. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is where the biggest mistake usually comes from. People don't distribute that negative sign. All right, I can't be giving you all my secrets, but if you want more, follow me to example 3. All right, mathletes, so before you have a panic attack here, let's calm down, let's breathe. Some people see a fraction, and I could already hear them, water, right? Don't worry, this isn't gonna be so bad. So, business as usual, right? Just because we have fractions, a rational function here, that doesn't change anything. The rules always stay consistent, right? So here we go. We're first gonna find f of x plus h. So this is nice, because all we end up with is 1 over x plus h. It's that easy, right? There's nothing else we could do. Wherever we see x, we put our input, which was x plus h. All right, now let me do again some color coding, because again, some organization is nice for this section as you're wrestling with these ideas. So that will put in red. Our original function here, we're going to put that in blue, and of course our h always stays the same because it's a constant. All right, so here we go. So we're going to take the f of x plus h, which was 1 over, I want to stay consistent with my color coding, 1 over x plus h, and we're going to subtract 1 over x, and all that is going to be divided by h. All right, so now let's simplify this, right? Let's get our LCD, our lowest common denominator. And what I would do is I'm just going to write it here. So if you want to, just to save space, but if you want to rewrite this again, just so you could follow this process, that might be a good idea. All right, so notice my LCD here, let me write it up top. My LCD is going to be x and x plus h, right? When I look at these two, because these are two totally different denominators, they represent different numbers. And so there's my LCD right there. So this one is missing the x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by x. And this piece right here is missing, this denominator is missing the, from the LCD, it doesn't have the x plus h. So let's go ahead and let's multiply it by x plus h. All right, so let's go ahead and distribute what's on top. The denominators, we're going to leave it as is. So what are we left with? So this gives us x over x times x plus h minus x plus h over x plus h all over h, right? That's what we have here after we distribute that 1. All right, so now we have the common denominators. So now let's distribute this negative sign, right? So we can combine like terms upstairs. So let's see what we get. So we end up with x minus h, right? After we distribute that negative all over our LCD, which is x plus h, and then of course all over h. All right, simplifying this, nice. These x's cancel. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm also gonna remind you that this h here in the denominator, that's the same thing as h over 1. Wow, why am I writing it like that? So it could be more helpful to you so that when I simplify this, when I rewrite this, I'm left with negative h, right, in our numerator, the denominator, x times x plus h. But remember, whenever you have a fraction divided by a fraction, that's the same thing as having a fraction times its reciprocal, right? So I'm taking this denominator, this h over 1, and I'm finding the reciprocal, right? That flip. And so I'm multiplying it by the reciprocal, 1 over h, right? This came from right here, the reciprocal, the flip of that. And this is beautiful because look what's going to happen. Those h's cancel. So what are you left with for that difference quotient? You're left with negative 1 upstairs. And in our denominator, we have x times x plus h. And there's nothing else that we could do here, right? So this is our difference quotient. All right, folks, so there's some quick little examples for you. Hopefully this was helpful. If you want to see some more examples, let us know. But until then, don't forget to like our video, subscribe, and tell a friend, or 10,000. We'll see you mathletes in our next video. Peace.